time. Obviously, I'm still adjusting, putting things into place. I just had a good friend over, and whoops, we were talking about all kinds of different stuff. So I'm just going to take a second to come into this space and get all situated because just got done. Just said goodbye. How are you guys this morning? How have things been? I have a fresh hot cup of coffee. Not doing that again. Let's see. So yesterday, you guys, we talked about some interesting stuff. I understand after talking with a bunch of you that a lot of you had problems with your feed at points. And some of you even were getting kicked off. Good morning, Maria. Nice to see you here. So yeah, I'm just going to close down some other things, turn this off, just finishing getting ready. I was like, no, I'm not going to be late again. Just put the rabbit away. Put phone on silent. Okay, so hello, welcome back. How are you all this morning? I don't have any card pulls scheduled yet for today, so anybody who wants a card pull, you can go ahead and start requesting. And we're going to just kind of continue our conversation that we started this week. First announcements, we only have one ticket spot left for Breakfast with Jessie on Sunday. That is from 10 to noon at Jam on Hawthorne. And there's just one spot left. Good morning, Shauna. So if you think you want it and you are interested, the only way to reserve the spot is by buying your ticket. And we'll be talking and sharing and all sorts of stuff. Melanie, you want a card pull? And yeah, so that's where we're at on that. Yesterday, I went and worked with Kyle. Oh, someone purchased the last one, Shauna? Oh, far out. So maybe there's not. I'll have to go in and look. So yeah, yesterday I was working with Kyle and we recorded my first meditation collection that we'll be offering soon, probably in the next week or two. I'm super excited to put that out there. And oh, good morning, Sue. Good morning. I saw your message. I know I haven't gotten back to you yet, but I will, I promise. Yeah, so we still have 2 slots for card pulls today. What else? So the chakra workshop is out there, you guys, if you want to know how to really work on and maintain and optimize your chakras, activate and clear. Sue, I do have a slot for you open. Okay, one more card pull slot. That is up there and ready to go. We've got the Life Mastery series out there if you haven't checked that out. Maria, perfect. Now our card slots are full. Feel free to. It's awesome. Adrian, we just had our last card pull spot taken. Let me see. Oh, you're feeling you're at the start of that downward spiral. Why don't we put you in there? We'll go ahead and put you in there, and we'll do you first. So I'll jump into card pulls. Let's see, Adrian, what messages will help you today? The Shadowscape Tarot wants to talk to you. Nope, I got you. I got you, darling. Right now, you guys, the energies are pretty intense coming through. I was just reading about how we're passing through the tailstorm from Halley's Comet right now. So we're getting a lot of activity in our atmosphere, and a lot of different materials are coming through the atmosphere, burning it up, being burned up, and that means we're having some interesting stuff delivered. Comets are just basically big snowballs in the space, and they're flying around and they're kind of melting, you know, and water holds so much life. So there's a lot of things coming to the planet right now, a lot of interesting energy coming through. So let's see, Adrian, you're welcome. It looks like it's time for you to start looking at how you've put burdens on your back. How are you organizing your life? It's time to start shucking this big giant city that you're carrying around of responsibility, maybe of guilt. I'm feeling a little bit of owning of other people's feelings and emotions and thoughts in a certain sense. Yeah, there's a lot of things that it's time to shuck off. There's a belief system that bears you down, that weighs you down. It's time to start releasing that belief system. It feels like you're being given opportunities to do so, but they also make you feel anxious and shut down. So I think grounding really deeply and coming fully present in each moment. And when the thoughts pull you back to the past, pause, remove yourself from the situation, ground yourself again, breathing deeply, unhooking from these things, these ideas, and allowing yourself to view them not attached to them, but as something just there, rather than engaging fully in with it. I think that gets you lost in the issue. Because that's a feeling I'm getting, is this feeling of real lost and confusion. And I think that's the energy that you're trying to shuck off. So there's something else. Let me feel. You have extremely high expectations for yourself, and a part of those are a prison that are forming around you. Letting go of the idea, and it sounds so easy, but I know how hard it is, that you are in any way responsible for other people and their feelings and their thoughts and their expectations and their emotions. When we start to take on responsibility, my husband tells me this all the time, Jesse, you can have compassion for people, for situations, for things, but you can't be their solution. And doing what I do, I'm like, but I can. And the reality is, when we serve as someone else's solution, then we're actually robbing them of that process of learning and growth. So yeah, that's what I'm hearing for you, Adrienne, is it's time to free yourself from the idea that you're supposed to, in any way, protect others from their growth as well as yourself. So pain is really a teacher, right? So that I've said this before. I had an angel tell me in a channeling that if humans could transition their idea of pain from being an adversary into being a teacher, they would stop suffering through their lessons. So when you're feeling pain from something, oh, a card just fell out. Funny. So this is what fell out, Adrienne, while we were talking about that. This is the Wheel of Fortune, right? So all the threads are coming together right now, and that's why it feels overwhelming, is because everything is kind of showing itself on how it all interconnects and how it all interrelates. And as you see more and more clearly what's coming through and what is happening for you, it's going to start unfolding and opening up more. And that might also create anxiety because you're used to being held into a space and being defined in that space. So opening up and allowing yourselves to open out and really spread out will help as well. Maybe if you can, do you have any grass you can go out and lay in the sun? Oh no, it's not that sunny today, but okay, this is really strange. Another card fell out. King of Pentacles, right? So the King of Pentacles is all about money, resources. How does he care? So it could be a man painting flowers today. That'll be good for you. So you've got some sort of masculine energy that's a struggle for you to deal with. And wanting you to be more concise and traditional. You know, the King of Pentacles is rigid in his beliefs. He's in a tree, right? Okay, so I'll move forward. Sue. Yeah, today the energy feels really strange, doesn't it? Are you guys noticing? You guys feel it? Sue the Shadowscapes want to talk to you also. This is one of the younger women in your lives' energies. This is a Page of Swords. So this is about a young woman who's really concise in her thinking, a woman who just feels above the situation and is able to look at things from above and understand and interpret things and sharpen her mind. What I'm also getting is, for you, she's challenging the Hierophant part of you, helping you break off from the rigid belief structure. You know, the Hierophant in some decks, he's an Ent in this deck, but in other decks, he's also the Pope, right, or the priest. And so he's a storyteller and a keeper of stories and a keeper of information and knowledge. But he has to remember that when he's not flexible, he breaks. Right, his limbs break off when he gets too rigid in a belief or an idea. The wind comes through of change, and it just rips those limbs apart. So it looks to me like you're being challenged by someone younger than you, who has this intelligence and this awareness and this just sense of really, you know, a higher perspective over things without the burden of responsibility. She's royalty without the crown, right? So she doesn't have to bear the weight of those things. So she's trying to help guide you in that way. So allow that to help you release your rigidity. Maria, I guess it's just a Shadowscapes day. So I'll just stop resisting. Maria, you're stepping into your real Queen of Cups self. The Queen of Cups is a energy where she is nurturing and caring for her people. And because she gives so selflessly and loves so completely, they're all looking out for her too. She doesn't have to look where her next foot will fall. She knows that when she moves that foot forward in her dance, the next turtle will be there, rising up to the surface, so she can literally walk across water, perform miracles. So it's also asking you to really pay attention to what are the steps that you're being guided to take by the subconscious, because you know they're under the waters, right? So these are under the waters thoughts, feelings, beliefs. As you move forward and as you dance through your life, begin to pay more attention to the subconscious ones so that you know where your feet are leading you. This is a big one for you. And the Queen of Cups also has to learn how to allow people to have their own emotional learnings and lessons as well. Back to that same energy. And there's also, for you, Maria, the Emperor. Right, the Emperor is a major arcana figure. He holds the energy of he is responsible for the entire kingdom. This is a very dominant male energy. It can be controlling. He can maybe struggle with relaxing his grip on his kingdom and his beliefs. He tends to want other people to create what he says, right? So he's used to being able to speak and then everybody jump. Right, so that energy is also a struggle for you. This came out inverted. So recognizing when that energy comes into play, that challenges you from showing up as your whole queen self. That challenges you and brings up more of your subconscious patterning rather than being able to stay focused and present and conscious of what you're doing and how you're interacting. When you encounter this energy of this Emperor energy, that throws you off. So this is your opportunity to work through those triggers in relationship to that. Wow, that was all the readings. That went really fast. And we did more than normal. Yeah, the energy feels very strange today to me. I feel like almost a bit numbish, I guess, would be a good way to put it. I have this sense of a distance between myself and everything else right now. I think that it might be in relationship to what we have to talk about. I wanted to continue our discussion from yesterday because, let's see, so today Let me just review really quickly. Yeah, so at the beginning of the week, we talked about licensing, right? We talked about nobody can license you to be you. Yeah, distant. It's interesting. It's an interesting feeling going on right now. You're welcome. So we talked about, that idea, that concept that we have to continue training, continue studying, and eventually we can show up as who we are and what we came here to be. We have a sense of permission. Do I have permission now to show up as that thing? Now, there are certain fields and certain jobs, right, that require the extreme training necessary to show up. And those are ones like Maria, for instance. She's a nurse. She's been training on the human body and human anatomy for a very long time. But now she's opening up as a healer and figuring out how to incorporate, and doing a beautiful job of incorporating these two different worlds, these two realms that are actually quite similar and quite the same. But that requires being willing to release the ideas and the beliefs that were formed in the medical training, because medical training, when you start doing energetic training, you realize it's missing some key points. Right. So part of that is a perfect example of how, for some of us, we overtrain and actually program in the wrong information. In the sense that we're receiving download and streaming information in order to be able to bring something new into the system, new into the creation. So we talked yesterday about how do you tell what's coming through and if it's actually to your benefit or not. I have a lot of people, oftentimes when we first meet, we go through this whole dance of how legit are you, right? Well, have you read so-and-so? Have you seen such and such? Well, what certificates do you have? What are you licensed to do? What's your modality that you practice? How long have you been practicing it? What standpoint do you teach from? Right? So there's all these questions that people ask when we first encounter each other, especially in the healing community. And when I show up and I'm like, I don't have any license. I've been training my whole life to be who I am, and that's who I show up as being. What am I teaching? How I learned how to show up as myself, and to try and help people learn to show up as themselves in their most authentic form, and all the ways that we support each other in doing so, right? So in a nutshell, describing myself. And does that actually give any value or show my worth or show where I'm at in my spectrum or what I'm here to do? No, not really. We can't actually show that until we're showing up for that person the way they need us to show up. So the struggle becomes, when am I ready to show up? When am I ready to share? And how do I share? How do I share what I have? In what format? Then most healers struggle with the format about being paid, and so they struggle to charge for what they're doing because, well, I don't have anything that licensed me that says that I'm worth that much money, right? Nobody can tell us those things. Those are things that we have to understand and learn and grow through and evolve, setting our session rates, setting our reading rates. And all of that, it's a flow that you've got to step into and play it out and participate and practice. So, with the licensing piece, part of that is fear-based. And it's fear-based because, one, we live in a litigious society where people will sue you and they will believe that it's your fault and they will look for the ways that it's your fault. Yet another reason why I started, unfortunately, I feel a little sad about it, but I have a waiver and a disclaimer now that my students sign up for the class. They have to sign it because one of my students said that the class broke her. And really, it was that she was already breaking and thought the class was going to save her. And nothing can save you from your lessons. You've created them. You're here to endure them, survive them or not. Nobody, no healer will ever be able to save you from those lessons. They'll only be doing patch jobs in emergency medic situations until you actually learn what it is that created the situation for you in the first place. So we have a lot of fear around licensing, a fear of backlash, fear of how others will respond, fear of how we can be safe while we're out there doing this work. And this work is all about vulnerability, being comfortable, not being safe, right? So it's this constant struggle that we as healers or as energy workers or guides or oracles or channels or mediums or whatever you want to call us, right? It's all the same. We work with energy and we translate it through our filters and share it, right? However that looks. So, we have all this fear around it. And a part of that fear, I kind of touched on this yesterday, is because there are groups out there that are using and feeding on that fear. It's to their benefit for us to be afraid. It's to their benefit for us to be cowering. It's to their benefit for them to have you not show up as who you came here to be, right? So when we get stuck in that trap of licensing, of certifications, of I need to do more training, I need to understand more, I need to learn more, oh, I'm not ready yet to put that out there, I'm not ready to show up yet. All of that fear also just prevents you from sharing information that could be critical in our global development and shifting and changing as a population. So remember that too. Like, that's another way that we get entrapped by our fear, by feeding into that mechanism. One of the things that I did, I've been doing most of my adult life is media blackouts. So I don't watch mainstream TV. I don't even have cable or access. We have a television that's not plugged into anything but a Blu-ray player. I watch Netflix, right? And I watch Amazon, but that's about it. I don't stream news. I don't stream any of that stuff. If it's something that's really important, I find out about it. It's impossible to not find out about. It shows up in the Facebook feed, or it shows up on my news ticker that's part of my email, right? My Yahoo email. So we get little snippets here and there. But don't allow those things, the pain that the world is going through right now, to be your entrapment as well. Don't get too caught up in all of the pain and the fear. That fear is there to keep you enslaved, to keep you fearful, to keep you seeking safety outside of yourself, meaning sending your energy always outside of yourself. And that's how they feed on us. So yesterday we did a Know Your River. Know what your river holds. By this point, most of you have started to see what you're navigating, what kind of river you're navigating in your life. You have a pretty good idea of the themes in your life. You have a pretty good idea of the kind of rocks that you get hung up on, or banks, or messages, or whatever it may be, right? So how do we use that fear and change it, switch it around from fear to empowerment? And that means that we have to be willing to be vulnerable and show up from a vulnerable space. So I think that the thing that's important to keep in mind, especially with this energy that we're going through right now, this transition space that we're in right now, one, we're a collective. So maybe if you're not somebody who feels particularly strong about these issues or struggles, know that when you're tapping into the collective, it's going to get stronger. Be aware that there's going to be an acceptance of, there's going to be upheaval and change. There's going to be death. There's going to be change in the climate. We already are seeing it. It's snowing in May, right? It's snowing in May in not mountain communities. It is, the world is changing. She's changing. And it's not because we destroyed her. And it's not because we are a bad race of beings. It's not any of those things. It's because it's a system and a cycle that is happening. And we are afraid. And so we're seeking out people to blame for it. We're seeking out reasons that it's happening. We're seeking out places to point our finger to understand why we feel anxious, why we feel fearful, why we feel unrested, why we feel this sense of something horrible is happening. Well, it's horrible if your perspective is that, death is the end of all things. And the more we do this work, and the more I do this work, the more I see that death is not at all the end of these things. Death is purely a transitional space from using a physiological vessel to only being in your energetic vessel again, where you actually are free for all the information. When you start astral projecting and doing that sort of travel, you have those moments of being in your whole energetic self. It's a totally different perspective to bring back in to the creation when you come back. It's one of the reasons that people who do a lot of astral projection legitimately you can see the difference in the way they relate, because there's a whole understanding that's missing. So yes, it's sad that there are these things going on, but they're part of the progression of the planet. They're a part of our system. They're a part of what we're engaged in and what we came here to be a part of and to witness. We're also shucking off extreme karma, family karma over generations from humanity, from this third density expression of development. So that's going to mean that you're going to feel uncomfortable, you're going to feel, you're going to see the patterns, right? So you'll have all sorts of opportunities for these things to show up so that you can actually tap back into those emotional states that are stored and release them from the vessel. That's how we release karma as well, is by being engaged in the situation in which the karma accumulated in the first place. So all of this stuff, it's like there's just so much of it going on right now. And so a lot of my friends, coworkers, colleagues, partners, all of them are really talking about the struggles they're facing to show up. I hear from a lot of people as well, this sense of I have no drive to do what I normally would be doing. I was just had a student over today, and that's what she wanted to talk about. She was like, I have no drive whatsoever to show up in my normal way. Like, she's an artist and makes jewelry and has a beautiful business, Medicine Collective. You may have heard of it. And she's like, but I don't know what to do and how to show up. And so right now, it's time for us to not be showing up in the way people have been showing up for the last millennia. We're not in the last millennia, we're in the new millennia. So it's time to start allowing yourself to show up as you are, who you are now. And the more you step in that authenticity, the less vulnerable you become to outside influencing energies. I have them show up all the time, and I'm able to see clearly, that's not my vibration, that's an external vibration. Oh, do I want to play in that vibration? No, I recognize that vibration. That was the whole thing about me finally learning how to block and give permission to release myself from a dynamic with somebody who was extremely unhealthy and who is the exact dynamic that I've had over and over in past relationships, and go, oh, see, now I get it, and I get it before the suffering starts. Annoyance, irritation, yeah, I get that. I can use these much more subtle emotions to shift and steer with. I don't have to go all the way to pain, right? Because pain is only the last-ditch effort that your body is using to get you to understand something that you've been missing, okay? I think that's all I really have to say about that, unless you guys have any questions. That kind of is going to wrap up the the discussion that we started on Monday about this kind of fear-based approach and fearing, unless there's questions about it. So I'll give you guys a second to write some as I take a sip. Yeah, one other thing that's popping. When you feel fear, when you feel pain, that doesn't always necessarily mean that something wrong or bad is happening. So transitioning it to opportunity. I think that's what we'll work on today, is transitioning our cues, our reception of our cues. Maybe that'll be our meditation today. We'll see. It always evolves and shows itself. Right? Yesterday, I loved the meditation that we did. It was a perfect lead into the meditation recordings that I did with Kyle. I can't wait for those to come out for you guys. That will be amazing. I'm hearing birds. All right, so let's move on and we'll start into the meditation. Let's see, we've got a lot of time, so maybe we'll do a nice big long, good meditation. All right, go ahead and make sure that you're sitting comfortably. All right, my energy is definitely feeling this. It's very different sensation. We're just going to allow that to be true. Just recognize it. It is what it is. I could desire myself to be able to show up and feel differently in this time and space where I can allow this way of showing up and recognize this too has its perfection. So let's go ahead and begin breathing in and exhaling. Breathing in, present moment, present awareness, and exhaling. Breathing in, feeling the air, smelling the air, and releasing from the body. Breathing in, beginning to see and take note of these lines connecting us, the thoughts pulling us out of the state. As we breathe in and exhaling, releasing and unhooking from those. Breathing in, drawing in those lines of connection while observing which ones are still tethered. And unhooking and releasing. Breathing in, drawing in those lines of connection. Looking at the lines that connect us to our past, to what's happened yesterday or the day before. Breathing in and noticing them and exhaling, unhooking. Breathing in, feeling those lines that connect us to the future, what we should be doing, where we should be going, how we should be showing up, our shoulds. And unhooking, releasing. Breathing in this present moment, present awareness. And unhooking from the expectations of ourselves, of how we should show up in this time, in this space. Really coming all the way present in this moment, even unhooking from your identity, who you are as an individuation, just allowing yourself simply to be. Let's just breathe that in for a moment, collectively. Feel how already in this time and space we can sense each other. We can feel the other selves also showing up whole and present, as though we're all in a space together. Yeah. Letting those roots drop down as a collective body. Bringing those roots as a community down and spreading them wide. Allowing them to reach out beyond the bounds of our community as we think of those other selves that are around us, just supporting, holding the soil together from which they can walk upon. Just spreading those roots out wider. And deeper. Remembering to breathe. Feeling how that Gaia energy is already up in our legs and up in our hips, and inviting her to come all the way in through that root chakra to bring her frequency of love, of allowance, of tolerance, of expression and creation, of all of her vibrations up through the chakra column. As we feel her energy separate out into each space within us. Good. Feeling that crown space already opening and unfolding as the source frequency comes down to meet us. Invite source into your vessel, into your being, to help realign and reattune you into your optimum frequency that you as an individual and us as a collective came here to embody. And feel that vibration extending down through the chakra column as it radiates out into the system. Down in the throat, the heart and lung, the solar plex, sense of self, the sacral, all the way down to the root and out. In this grounded and connected state, let's ask for a download from Source as an individual and as a collective, as a community, for what we came here to be, how we came here to show up, how Source views the work we're doing, how we, our higher selves, view what we've come here to be. Just allow all that information and any other questions that you feel like you need to understand better. Let's just ask for that information to be brought down in a vibrational way, down through our connection to Source, through our highest of selves, as it comes down into the body to resonate. And as it does so, begin to take note of the different thoughts, images, ideas, and memories that you have that are popping to the surface. Often these are ways showing you the ways that you prevent yourself from showing up. Block yourself from receiving this information, processing it through fear, perhaps fear of being known or seen for what you believe yourself to be, a conduit of God, of Source. And remember to breathe. Begin to imagine a time. We're going to allow ourselves to just project into the very near future, just a little bit ahead of where we are right now. Maybe next week, maybe next month, maybe tomorrow. Just let your imagination show you the scene of yourself interacting by yourself. Just allow it to open up as though you're watching yourself in a movie screen. Now, what is it that you feel as your first response to what you're seeing or experiencing? Does it bring you joy? Does it bring you anxiety? Fear? Just take note of the emotional response, the energetic response that you have. Maybe it's showing you an absolute blank, absolutely nothing. How does that make you feel? Somebody's getting a pain right here in the chest, in the heart chakra, just to the side. Feels like their masculine energy side. Maybe it's about a fear of how to show up lovingly. Feels like it's coming from a woman, so fear of receiving this kind of tender love from a male energy. Just take note and observe. We're not fixing anything, we're just observing and allowing ourselves to be communicated with by ourselves. That's better. That felt like it was clearing up and out. Notice how as we observe these things, the issues resolve themselves almost. They play themselves out and then it's no longer a charged issue. Just take note of these things as we play with this state of allowance and observation. Now let's all just project and look a little further into the future. Just a little bit further from where you were, the next step. How do you feel as you observe this next potential step forward for you? How are you feeling? What are you thinking about? What sensations are coming up for you in your body? Where do you know you struggle? As we get to know these spaces as we move forward in our timeline, looking just a little bit further and a little bit further, we can play with possibilities of routes. So call up another screen to view on and look and see another possibility, another line that you could be working towards. There's a reason that I want you guys to start playing in this way. So opening up that other line, that secondary screen, allow another possible next step to show itself closer to where you're at. We started just a few tomorrow or a few days in the future. Next step forward for you in whatever journey you're on. Look at another possible next step. And as you observe this secondary screen, try projecting a little further. What would the next step beyond that second alternative be? Look a little further. Now that first one that we looked at, that first possible step, that first timeline that we looked at, that tends to be the subconscious desires, right? A real motivator. And those are driven by ideas that we have shaped over the course of our lives. The secondary screen that we looked at tends to be a reactionary screen. If we didn't like what we saw in the first one, this is a reflection of how we want it to be different, what we want to be changed. What are the differences between these two timelines? So you can begin to see how you, as a creator being, are consciously and subconsciously creating the paths that you walk down, what your journeys are. Begin to look at these two lines in that way. For what are the motivators? What's driving this sort of progression and development? Try to see those for this moment. Let's just listen and observe. Feeling the support of all the others who are doing this same work. Now I want you to begin to ask, what inhibits me from believing these possibilities are true or could be true? What is it that I use to limit myself and block myself from these possibilities? How do I prevent myself from having to show up and be vulnerable? In what ways? Open up that screen and allow that to show yourself as you play out your future line that we've been looking at. How are you making choices and decisions based on unconscious patterns? And how are you making conscious choices and decisions based on unconscious beliefs and awarenesses or observations? Just begin to play with this as you look at how you want to show up in this creation, what you want to do and accomplish, and how you want to be as you walk through the creation. Just feel it out. Bringing that subconscious to the fully conscious, fully present, and fully aware. Now I want you to imagine you have a third screen, and I want you to invite your highest of selves to project onto this screen the path they view you walking. Allow that highest of self's frequency and energy of your linear progression to be shown on the third screen. As we look over and just allow it to be shown. Take note and observe your own personal responses to what you're witnessing, your fear, your value, your worth, your sense of belief or disbelief. A desire to diminish or minimize the self as you feel and witness the wholeness with which that comes in. And I want you to imagine that you were surrounded by the people in your life who are here to truly support and nurture this growth, this development, and this embodiment of this highest of selves. Just take note of those who are here to support and those who are here to challenge. Just allow yourself to observe these relationships and how they interconnect. And now some of you are starting to feel like anxiety or frustration or irritation or less than feelings. We're actually calling these energies up to the surface. Just like when we want to do some cleansing, we want to be able to pull out all the dirt so that when we wash and cleanse, it's all brought up to the surface. So what are you thinking and feeling as a result of seeing these people, seeing their dynamics, seeing their interactions with you, or a lack of people, a lack of dynamic, a lack of support, or an abundance of challenge, an abundance of frustration? Just allow these things, these energies to come to the surface, just like you're purging. And then we're going to call in that beautiful, prismatic rainbow waterfall of source. That waterfalling energy that is so cleansing and powerful, because it's time to just wash away the old beliefs that we have no value, that we are crazy, that we have no worth, that we can't possibly attend or achieve or show up as, that we couldn't possibly be that which we came here to be. All flushing and washing and cleansing, thinking of all the times we've made mistakes, not seized opportunities, all of that stuff that we've brought forward, washing it away as it's flushed down into source, as we release ourselves from the history of who we once believed ourselves to be. Feel that waterfall flowing over you, over your entire energetic body, flowing, cleansing, charging. And when you're all the way cleansed and you feel all the little parts of the body are clear, there's no sore spots, no tenderness, no tightness left, step out of the waterfall and step into that third screen embodiment, the full self that you came here to be. Somebody's having some throat stuff. Me. Part of what I'm supposed to be doing is singing and speaking and being far more public with it. And I like my little small space of Morning Oasis and my little small community. So I'm feeling and sensing I need to go back in the waterfall and pull up more of the emotions that I hold and the feelings and the beliefs that nobody really wants to hear me, nobody really likes what I have to say, what I have to say is not relevant, my thoughts and my song are not popular, I will be punished, I will be rejected, I will be seen. I'm just going to pull those up and allow that waterfall energy to flush through and flush and release. And then I'm going to step back out of the waterfall into the whole self, presenting fully who I came here to be. And taking note of the vessel. How is it feeling? Does it feel more comfortable and confident in this space? Is there fear? Do I need to step back in the waterfall and face some more fears and open them up and allow them to be cleansed? Or do I just need to continue forward? Using your compass if you're unsure. So this is how I work on trying to understand why I do what I do, why is it happening, where am I seeing myself going, and what did I actually come here to be, that higher self's understanding and awareness. I hope you found this supportive and helpful. Stay in the space as long as you need till you can step out of that waterfall and feel like, that's right, I know what I'm doing today. I know where I'm going. I'll see you tomorrow. Thanks, guys.